The axiom catch them young, expresses the desire to train, cater, support, and guide children early in life to become lifelong learners and responsible adults. For our guest, Tochi Opara, who's the author of 21st Century Parenting, believes this is the best way to train the next generation well. She's here to tell us more. Tochi, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, a big congratulations on the book here. We've got a lovely copy that you've shared with us, 21st Century Parenting. Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Steve and I were also given an advanced electronic copy, so we really do appreciate that too, so we can read it before our interview. You know, the entire book discusses parenthood.
Yes.
And you give, you know, in the early parts of it, you give some sort of medical guidance, and you say that the decision to become parents should start early, but you give yourselves a series of medical checks to check for diseases, infections, viruses, but you also talk about the importance of checking for your medical compatibility. And that's really interesting because in the early parts of the show, and definitely this week, we were talking about sickle cell and how it should be at the forefront of conversations with new couples, especially here in Nigeria, because it is so endemic here. That being said, us being in Nigeria, we also know that this country is devoutly loyal to its religions and Christianities and letting God lead the way. So when you have science and logic and religion, how do you advise parents to make the best decisions going forward?
Okay, thank you for that question. Going back to the book, I had discussed the faith angle. I'm very happy to see that most churches today in their premarital counseling classes, that's a topical issue. They advise the will-be couple, have yourselves checked out for compatibility, because in the heady days of love, there's this assumption that love will take care of everything, but reality is another matter entirely. So when we get to that point where, because of mismatch of the genes, there's a sickle cell child, it's a lot of strain. Marital unions are very stressful on their own. So when you introduce health, something that would drain your resources, your energies, your time, and affect the quality of your lifestyle, that's a totally new level. But then again, I'm happy that Arise has taken the initiative to fund the new medication for sickle cell. I think I heard that like Professor Kiyonju?
Yes.
2 days ago.
Yes, he did say so. We're very proud.
So while the religion is there, like I said in the book, I believe God gave the intelligence to doctors to come up with these tests. And that's a way of escape for parents. You don't need to walk into what clearly could be a booby trap in the name of love or religion. So that's my take.
Okay, that's a stylish one there, but it's okay. I mean, thanks again for coming to discuss this book. Like Adefemi said, we looked through it, and good to see that. Which was why I asked you at the beginning: was this printed in Nigeria? I like the fact that many books are now being printed in Nigeria, and they're looking good and everything.
Yes.
About straight to the topic, the focus of the book. Two things came to mind for me. One, you said that parenting is a calling.
Yes.
And then how does that work with a 21st century parent? Are we to create a 21st century parent out of parents, or there are 21st century adolescents, millennials, Gen Zs, etc., who will need to change? Is it the parents? Or how do we deal with the new set of, Adefemi and I were just talking about kids, age and everything. How do parents of nowadays deal with kids of nowadays who are a lot different from those who were born more than 35, 40, 50
Yes,
years
it was
ago?
a different era.
Absolutely.
Yes.
How?
So you see, there's a lot of attention on this century because we have on our hands a different species of human beings. A lot of developments came along in the century in which they were born. There's the explosion in knowledge.
Absolutely.
The internet has made a gallant entry, and that's our reality, and it is here for good. It's not going to get smaller. It's going to get bigger. It's pervasive.
Internet of things.
It controls everything we do, and this generation is the very first generation to embrace internet fully. as a way of life. So we, their parents, we are playing catch-up. We're playing catch-up. But you find that some people are still in denial or they think they can resist. It's a tidal wave. It's not going to stop. You can't dam it. So what I will say to a 21st century savvy parent is to embrace technology in all of its forms. If you want to stay connected and effective, if you want to stay connected to your children, understand the dynamics that rule their world, and be effective, you've got to embrace technology. You have to. There's no other way out. It's our reality. As good as technology is as well, we also have to come to a place where we realize that it has its downsides. Because you're talking about information at the press of a button. Absolutely. And accessible multi-user portals. Over 1 billion people can see single information in a second.
Yeah. But you can't,
so privacy is gone.
Totally.
It's gone.
So how does a 21st century parent effectively monitor the
activities?
I mean, if you look at what is happening with Facebook, for example, the whistleblower was all about the fact that, allegedly, that Facebook is essentially placing profit over safety.
Yes.
And safety that we are talking about concerns largely, the young ones, the adolescents.
Yes.
So if we embrace technology,
yes,
and it's not as if we've got any choice anyway.
We don't have a choice.
How much can we trust that the kids of nowadays will turn out moderate, turn out...
I don't think they're equipped on their own to make that call.
Okay.
That's why we are their parents. That's why we are there. If we monitor their physical activities, we have a say in the friendships, the company they keep and all that. Same goes for online activities. Parents should be able to... I think the greatest security really is to empower the child. We're talking about the downsides of technology. Not everybody on social media or wherever has good intentions. We have predators.
Absolutely.
We have recruiters. You saw the English teens who were recruited, ISIS brides.
Yes.
So not everybody on the online has good intentions. So when the child is fully equipped and you understand that there are dark sides to technology, they can self-regulate. That's my first point. Because you can't be with the children 24 hours. We talk about activating parental control button, set the whatever on forget password, or this. You can't just not be with them 24 hours. So if you have good communication levels with your children and you take time and they see benefits, they see that this is for my own good. This is for my own good. And then from time to time, you may have to look in. You may have to look in and then have the conversations ongoing. And then with a measure of assurance, we believe that they can self-regulate.
Okay, we've got a few minutes left with you. So I want to make use of that time. I mean, really, again, reading through the book, your book lists different styles or types of parent.
Yes.
I wonder if you can tell our viewers what those different types are and how those different styles of parent, what roles those styles play when it comes to children and discipline and punishment.
Okay. So basically there are...
also add Sharenton.
You saw that. Thank you.
If you can add that to it, please.
Okay. So you saw in the book, I talked about the classic, the 4 classical styles, which is you have the authority-based ones and the non-authority-based ones. The 2 authority-based ones, you have the authoritarian. And that's the heavy authority-based parenting style. The parents demand obedience. The communication is very limited in the sense that it's a one-way street. It comes mostly from the parents by way of instructions or clarifications to instructions. They use punishment to rein children in. And the children under this environment, they are usually not very happy children, but they cope with their lot because there isn't really any other option. So because the environment is very structured and regimented, they fare well in environments where they structure discipline because they've learned obedience as a way of life early in life. They are good in the academics. They don't relate very well. They're not spontaneous, not surprising. So because of time, I'll quickly move to authoritarian. I just explained authoritarian.
Yes.
So now moving to authoritative. There's also high demands of maturity levels here, but the difference is that the parents are nurturing. In the former one, parents are not very responsive to their children's social and emotional needs. But in the authoritative, while they make high maturity demands, just like an authoritarian parent, they are nurturing. The conversation is a two-way street. They recognize the emotional needs of their children, and they would support that. So, and the children do well too. Handle relationships, responsibility, self-esteem. Then the non-authority-based ones, neglectful. I'm sure you can already tell what that is. Abject neglect, disconnection, emotionally, physically sometimes, and psychologically. The children have to scrape through life on their own. And they are people users because they've never connected in love or whatever with parental authority. And then the permissive or indulgent. The children rule their world. It's child-driven. The parents relate to the children here as friends. They're afraid of conflict, and they want their children to love them. And I don't know whether they succeed, because the children actually never quite feel loved. Because when they are with their peers and they compare notes, you find out that there's this thing of, oh, I wish somebody can even tell me to come home early.
Will that be common with parents with just a child?
That's one of the manifestations. But then we see it again amongst higher income earning families. Because, yeah. So when it comes to discipline, in the permissive style, there's no discipline regimen at all. Because the happiness of the child is at the center of this parenting. For the neglectful and uninvolved, doesn't care one way or the other. So you're on a free roll. So the authoritative parent uses discipline, taught conduct that empowers a child to self-regulate. Authoritative.
Is that the one that you are?
That's me.
What about you, Steve?
I think that's me too.
We'll ask your children, see what they say. Before we let you go, though,
Sharing.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
So there's this new tendency to share our lives, what happens in the privacy of our homes. Pam, it goes out. And people just want to feel connected, and they also want to show that things are happening in their corners. That's okay. But you cannot spill everything. There's still some things that are meant to be private. So sharing is the oversharing syndrome, putting out everything there. The ones that should go out, the ones that shouldn't go out. And then the downside is that you begin to create digital footprints of your family. And we know that schools and consular authorities, these days, they set you out before you appear.
You're right.
And then you share more than you should. Evil people online, that's where they harvest information. That's where they harvest information. So, in a nutshell, that's sharing.
I mean, I would have loved for her to talk about, the maybe, I'm sure I'll find it in the book, the baby mamas or single parents and stuff like that, but
we
it's
do
just
have,
about time,
we can throw you a minute to discuss that, because I think that would be really good, because as we found out, there's more than one way to become a family.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So what do you think about blended families, stepchildren, or instances where someone may have had a transgression, had a child outside of the home? How do you blend those types of families? Is it possible to blend those families?
For us, the ideal environment to bring up a child is the two-parent model in a committed marital relationship. But we cannot close our eyes to reality.
Absolutely.
There are single parents. There are drifters, those who didn't intend to, but were just a consequence of one night of, you know what I mean. So you have blended families. Thing is, every family has its own internal culture. The two people, the father and mother, should be able to set a tone of what the environment in their families would be like. What values are we going to pursue? What do we want to see at the end of our parenting journey? So it's all possible. For the single parent, what I say is that they need more support for obvious reasons. Parenting is tough work. Tough work. On a good day with two people actively collaborating, cooperating. Then when you have just one person, time is a factor. Resources, support systems. So the single parent needs more support than the two-parent model. And we don't discriminate. Once a child comes into the world, we thank God. That's a gift from God.
Yeah.
The circumstances of birth are secondary.
Yeah.
So,
understood. I mean, and I'm happy you said that. You know, because it was something I wanted to mention, that your book focuses on families in a very nuclear form. Husband, wife, children, and that's obviously not always going to be the structure of a family.
Yes.
So where you talked about leadership, where usually it is the male persons in the family who takes that leadership role in a single parent household, whether it's just the father figure or a mother figure, how does leadership work?
Well, you know there's a father figure somewhere.
That's right.
Biologically, there's a father figure. It's just that it's not an active participant in the parenting journey. So you have dummies, daddy, mommy, in one person.
There is that.
Dummies.
Tochi Opara, thank you very much, author of 21st Century Parenting. Thank you very much for joining us on the morning show.
Thank you for having me.
And congrats on the book.
Exactly.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.